Okay, so tonight we're starting Bircas HaTorah. I would like to divide Bircas HaTorah into two because it's long and there's a lot to be said, not just about the text of the Bircas HaTorah, but on the inyanim of Esek HaTorah, Chashivas HaTorah. There's so much here, and instead of trying to squeeze it into one shir or to chop it down, we'll divide it in Mitzvah Hashem into two different nights. We'll start with the words of the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Simin Mem Zayin, Sif Aleph. The Mechaber says, Birchas HaTorah tzarich lizoher b'ma'od. An unusual nusach in a Shulchan Aruch. That's a halacha. That Birchas HaTorah, you have to be very careful with it. The Mishnah Berurah brings a number of Rishonim, and also like the Hachra of the Shagas Aryeh, in Siman Chav Daled, that Birchas HaTorah is d'oraisa. Some others hold that Birchas HaTorah is d'Rabbanan, but surely if it's d'oraisa, tzarich lizoher b'ma'od, and even if it's d'Rabbanan, the Mishnah Berurah goes on to explain in Sivkat and Beis, he expounds that a person should say Birchas HaTorah with Simcha Gedolah, with a great Simcha, Baruch Hashem, that Hashem chose us and gave us the Torah on Har Sinai and changed our lives because we are people who follow His Torah. And he brings that the Gemara in Nedarim, Daf Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, at the times of the Churban Bayis Rishon, the Gemara says that it was asked of the Chachamim and the Nevi'im and the Malachei Ashares, why did Hashem destroy the land, Alma of the Haaretz? And they didn't know the answer until HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself answered the question. She'ein mevarchen b'Torah tchila. She'ein mevarchen b'Torah tchila means they didn't make Birchas HaTorah. And the Ran brings over there a very famous Ran, the Ran in the name of Rabbeinu Yoina. He says that obviously if the Nevi'im, the Chachamim, the Malachei Ashares didn't know why, so oiskim hayu b'Torah tamid. They were learning a lot of Torah. It wasn't that they didn't have limud HaTorah. They learned a lot of Torah. The mashmas of the Gemara was they didn't make Birchas HaTorah, but the learning they did. Rather, what was the nekuda? Shaloi hoisa HaTorah chashuva be'eineim kol kach sheyehiroi levarech aleha. It wasn't so special, so chashuv in their eyes, the mitzvah of limud HaTorah, that they felt that it required a bracha. Shaloi hayu oiskim ba lishma, because they weren't learning it lishma. And we'll see in Mitzvah Hashem in this bracha what it means to be laimdei sayrasecha lishma. Umitoich kach hayu mezalzelim beberchasa. Therefore, they weren't careful to make the bracha. Al Kapanim, says the Mishnah Berurah, we have to appreciate as we do make the Birchas HaTorah, we fix that chait, and we are mevarich b'Torah tchila. We have to not only say the words correctly, but we have to understand what we mean and have that hergish of simcha that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us the Torah. And what better time to learn about this bracha than in the Yimei HaSfira, which we're counting to the days of Kabbalas HaTorah, the cheshek HaTorah that we have, that we try to build towards the day of Kabbalas HaTorah on Shavuos, and therefore we'll Mitzvah Hashem go through the words here of the Birchas HaTorah with the hergish, with the Simcha Gedolah that is required for Birchas HaTorah. So we start, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvosav, He was mekadesh us with His mitzvahs, v'tzivanu what? La'asek b'divrei Seirah, to be oisek, to be involved in the words of Torah. We'll notice that the lashon of the bracha is not lilmay Torah, just that He commanded us to learn Torah, but lasik b'divrei Seirah, the Ribar Yakar, the Rebbe of the Ramban, is medayik that this bracha is going specifically on the limud of Torah Sheba'al Peh, because Torah Sheba'al Peh involves more asik. When you're learning a pasuk chumash or a story in Navi, it doesn't involve that asik, that toiling. You have to know what the words mean and learn the story and chazer it over to remember. But the asik HaTorah, that being engrossed in a sugya, that is referring to Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the Taz says it right there in Siman Mem Zayin, Sivkat Aleph, he's mechaven to this. The Taz says that the lashon of lasik b'divrei Seirah is mashma, that it's going on the masa umata, on the back and forth, the shakla v'tarya that people have with others, b'tayreach v'yagia, when people are troubled and working, toiling hard on Torah. And that Bapashtas, what he's referring to is Torah Sheba'al Peh. The makar for that is the Ribar Yakar, that the lasik b'divrei Seirah, the expression of lasik, is referring specifically to Torah Sheba'al Peh. Now, a few nekudas on the word Esek, Lasik B'divrei Seirah. One is the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim in Parshas Bechukosai talks about the nusach that we're all familiar with when we say in a siyum, Anu Amelim U'Makablim Schar, V'heim Amelim V'eina Makablim Schar. So the Chavetz Chaim says that a Yid gets Schar for his Amelus. Everybody else, even if they get paid by their boss, but they don't get paid for the Amelus, they get paid for the hours, they get paid for the job that's done, but they don't get paid because they tried hard. If a baker tries hard, but he doesn't end up making the bread, so he's not going to get paid. But by Torah, it's the amelus in the Torah, anu amelim umukam schar. So that's one thing possibly that we can have in mind when we say lasik b'divrei Torah, that the mitzvah is the asek itself. Even if you don't end up getting the Gemara clear after trying for an hour, you still get the schar, because the mitzvah is not lahavin Torah. The mitzvah is not the understanding, the knowledge. There is a separate mitzvah of yediyas HaTorah, but here this mitzvah that we're blessing Hashem for in the bracha of Bircas HaTorah is the tzivui lasik b'divrei Torah, to be oisek in it. In addition to that, the Bircas used to say, this is brought down in a number of svarim, that the Bircas used to say that the Hebrew word for business is asek. Today, in Eretz Yisrael, you could just say business, but that's not a Hebrew word. But the real word is asek. Asek means a business. So you have to treat the Torah like an asek, lasik b'divrei Torah. There are times where a person is very tired, and if he's very tired, even if he's working all day, and he has a night seder chavrusa at night, but if he's very tired, he'll give it up and he'll say, I'm too tired, I can't go out to learn. But a person shouldn't give up their seder limud if they wouldn't give up their work, if they wouldn't take off of work. A lot of times after a chasana, late at night, so a person who's a ben yeshiva or someone who has a seder of learning in the morning will oversleep or will not be consistent about his seder because he's very tired. He went to sleep very late last night. But if you're working for a boss of Adam, so you wouldn't be able to come late to work just because you had a wedding the night before. So lasik b'divrei Torah, the Bircas said that we have to focus on that nekuda, that the limud HaTorah has to be like an asek, like a business. We have to take it as seriously, not take coffee breaks every 10 minutes, to be sure that we're treating it like an asek. So those two aspects, lasik, first of all, that the mitzvah is the asek itself, and also that it has to be as serious to us, and we have to treat it as consistently as an asek, as we do a business, as seriously as we treat a business. That's hinted to in the words lasik b'divrei Torah. In addition to that, there's another point, and that is that the word lasik, when a person says to be oisek in something, that means that you're totally involved in something. There's a mechilta in Parshas Yisro by Kabbalas HaTorah. The mechilta says a very powerful lashon, that Hashem chose us to be an am segula, lios oiskim b'Torah, that the Medrash says, the Mechilta says, V'loi tiu asukim oiskim b'dvarim acherim. You should be oisik in Torah and not in anything else. Almost as if to say, all you should be oisik in is Torah. Don't be oisik in anything else. Now, of course, there's a heter v'asafta deganecha. People could be oisik in parnasa. People are oisik in eating, oisik in sleeping. But I think the message of the Mechilta is that shouldn't be our ikar focus. Our asik, our involvement in this world. What are you doing here in this world? I am oisik in Torah. Im lamata Torah harbe, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos Parak Beis, al tachzik toiv la'atzmecha ki lekach neitzarta. That is what you were born to do, to be toil in Torah. Adam la'amal yulad. So therefore, our asek, our main focus, asay Torascha kva. Your Torah should be a keva. So even if we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to do business, we have to do other things during the day, but that shouldn't be considered the asek of a yid. It may be in the dictionary his asek, his business. If he's not Torasai umnasai, so he has another umnis. But when you ask a person what is their asek, what is their main involvement, it's the seder that he has before he goes out to work. It's the seder that he has at night, the shiur that he listens to on Torah anytime, or any other way that he listens to a shiur. But the idea is that the asek, lasik b'divrei Torah, that should be the asek to the exclusion of everything else. As the Mechilta says, you should be oiskim b'Torah, v'loi tiu oiskim b'dvarim acherim. And it's kedai to mention the Sefer HaChinuch in this past week's parsha, in Parshas Kedoshim. There was a lav that says Lo soichlu al hadam, which the Gemara in Sanhedrin Samach Gimel learns out a number of different things from that lav. So the Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzvah Reish Mem Ches says that the Torah is teaching you not to be marbe ba'achilu v'shtia, especially in your younger years when you're very impressionable, that you shouldn't develop for yourself a style that you're marbe ba'achilu v'shtia. And the Sefer HaChinuch says something very yesodistic, that a person has a nefesh and chaymer. Nefesh is his neshama, his ruchnias, and chaymer is his material, his gashmias. And they're hafachim gemurim. They're two opposites. So zok the Sefer HaChinuch, each part of you needs sustenance. There's isas hachaymer, there's the food for the material body, and that's what we call food. But then there's isas hanefesh, spiritual sustenance, spiritual food. So he says that the more behisgaber isas hachaymer, teichalish ktsas isas hanefesh. If a person eats too much, with the greatest hachsherim, glad kosher, but if he's involved too much and he's focused on going out always to the best restaurants and eating the best foods and great quantities of it, so then his isas ha-nefesh is going to suffer. A person is only entitled to a certain amount of food, and you have to divide that between your spiritual food and your physical food. This is a Sefer HaChinuch, a Rishon, in Mitzvah Reish Mem Ches. So the more a person eats, even beheter, so it's going to come off of his understanding in Torah. I found in the Sefarnai that he says the same Yesod in Parshas Hazinu, Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Tezvav, on the Pasuk Vayishman Yeshurun, Klal Yisrael became fat from Gashmias, Vayivat, and they rebelled. So the Svarnai says, Gam Balei Ha'Ion, people who were involved in Ion of Torah, Panu El HaTanugim HaGashmiyim, they started turning to the Gashmiyistic of pleasures, Uvazeh Avisa Mehavin Dakus HaEmes. You became thick, it was impossible for you to understand the Dakus, the delicate, fine nuances of Emes in Torah. Because a person ate Vayishman Yeshurun, therefore Vayivat, it's really a Medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Noach, Ois Gimel, that the Torah Shabbat Peh can only be found by someone who is Meimis Atzmai Aleha, and not Eitzel Misha Yevakish Oineg Ha'olam. Al Kapanim, we're seeing from all these wonderful sources that the idea is that we have to have one Asek in life, and that is the Asek HaTorah. And no matter how many hours a day or how many hours a week a person spends on the learning, but that should be his ikr, that should be his focus. It's not a question of roiv and miut, more hours, less hours. It's a question of what is my focus in life. Lasik b'divrei Saira, that Hashem gives schar for the Asek alein. Lasik b'divrei Saira, that the Torah is like a business, that we treat it as seriously as a business. And also Lasik b'divrei Saira, that we realize that this is our only Asek, like the Mechilta says in Parshas Yisroi, that this is our Asek and not anything else. This is our Iker Asek in life. Then the bracha says, V'harevna Hashem Elokeinu as divrei Sairascha b'finu u'v'fi amcha beis Yisrael. In many Siddurim, this is printed on a separate line. In the newer Siddurim that are a little more meduyik, it's printed together, because really this is a continuation. V'harevna, it starts with a vav, because it's a continuation. The Shulchan Aruch over there in Siman Mem Zayin, Sif Vav, and the Ramah say that it's the same bracha. You're supposed to say V'harevna. The Mishnah Berurah says in Sifkatan Yud Beis that in the name of most Achrayim, Roiv Achrayim, that we say V'harevna, and if not just Harevna. And if that's the case, you should not say Amen after the bracha of Lasik B'divrei Saira before V'harevna. We all remember that one person on Shavuos morning, when the person who's saying all the Bircas HaTorah and everyone is saying Amen when they're supposed to, there's that one tired person or the person who doesn't know who says Amen after Lasik B'divrei Saira, and everyone shushes him because they're right. He shouldn't be saying Amen at that point. There's no Amen after Lasik B'divrei Saira. It's Lasik B'divrei Saira V'harevna. It's a continuation that we ask Hashem that the Torah should be sweet, as we'll see soon what that nusach means. But the first thing to know is that it's really a continuation of the bracha, and the taich of V'harevna means please Hashem, the Torah should be sweet. As Divrei Sairascha, the words of Torah, it's not always sweet, it's not always easy to understand, but we ask Hashem in the beginning of every day, before we start to learn, that Hashem should make the words of Torah sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of Kol Amcha Beis Yisrael, V'niya Anachnu V'tzetzainu. We daven not just for ourselves, but for our children, our grandchildren. So let's see the exact taich over here. V'harevna means that it should be sweet. Why dafka by the mitzvah of, by the bracha of Bircas HaTorah, do we ask that it should be sweet? We don't ask that the mitzvah of tefillin should be sweet, the mitzvah of netilas yadayim or tzitzis should be sweet. Every mitzvah you're supposed to do a mitzvah b'simcha. Here it sounds like it's an integral part of the mitzvah that a person has to be b'simcha. We say it in Ma'ariv as well, v'nismach b'divrei sayrasecha or b'divrei salmut Torah, that we should be happy with the words of Torah. So there is a piece of Rabbeinu Avrohom min Hahar, one of the not as well known Rishainim, but it's on Masechta Nedarim. Rabbeinu Avrohom in Nahar in Nedarim Daf Mem Ches Amud Aleph says that there's a klal in Shas, mitzvahs lav lehanis nitnu. Mitzvahs were not given for your pleasure. You could enjoy a mitzvah, but the mitzvahs were not given for pleasure, and that's a halachic din that says in Chazal with various nafkaminas that mitzvahs were not given for the purpose of hana. It was given because Hashem is mitzvah as mitzvahs, and we are like an eved who does the mitzvahs of Hashem. So Rabbeinu Avrohom in Nahar, there's one exception. The mitzvah of Talmud Torah was given for your pleasure. Here's a lashon of a Rishon, Rabbeinu Avrohom in Nahar. She'ikar mitzvasai, the ikar mitzvah of Talmud Torah, hi hahana'a v'hatanug b'mashem masig u'mevin bilimudai. The ikar mitzvah is the tainug, the enjoyment that a person has in his learning. It's not a side thing like a simcha that there's an Indian by all mitzvahs to do mitzvahs b'simcha, ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. But by Talmud Torah, that's a part of the mitzvah. He brings from the pasuk in Tehillim Yotes, Pekudei Hashem Yesharim Misamchei Leiv. lev. The mitzvahs of Hashem, the pekudim of Hashem, the Torah that Hashem teaches us are mesamchei lev. The Taz writes this as well. The Taz in Yeridea, Simin Reish Chaf Aleph, Sivkatan Mem Gimel, says Ladina in the dinim of Hilchas Nadarim and mitzvahs lav lahenis nenu by Yisuri Hana. He says by mitzvahs Talmud Torah it's an exception, and the Taz was mechav into this. Rabbeinu Avrohom in Ahar. There's a famous piece. I'll just be mitzayin to you in the Hakdama of the Eglei Tal. The Eglei Tal was written by the Avnei Nezer, his sefer on Hilchas Shabbos. So in his Hakdama he says there also when the Torah is learned b'simcha, it's an andere Torah. It's a limud Torah that gets nivlas b'dama. It's absorbed in the blood, and he brings the Taz al Chapanim. That's why we say specifically by the mitzvah of limud Torah, v'harev na Hashem Elokeinu as divrei sayrascha. It's kedai to mention over here the Vart of Rav Schwab. He said it many times, and it's printed. The Iker Vart is printed over here in the Rav Schwab on prayer, the Iyun Tefillah, Sefer Iyun Tefillah, right over here by Bircas HaTorah. But Rav Schwab al Peh expounded on it a little more. And he said that the hana that a person has when they learn Torah is like the hana that a person has in a swimming pool. What's the comparison? What's a swimming pool? Says Rav Schwab, anyone who's used to swimming, when you swim, unless it's an indoor heated pool, the moment you jump into the pool, it's very cold. Most people, when they go into the pool, are not comfortable. It's very cold. You have to get used to the water. If a person is a quitter, he'll come out in the first 30 seconds because it's just too cold. But if you just stay there, you let your body get used to the temperature of the water, it becomes very comfortable to the point that afterwards you can't even realize, and someone asks you how the water is. If you were in the water for 5 minutes, you say it's wonderful, it's warm, it's great. You don't even remember that it was so cold in the beginning. And not only that, if you're there for a little while longer, when you come out of the pool, then you're shivering and you feel freezing. What do you mean? You were just freezing when you jumped into the pool. Why are you freezing when you come out of the pool? The answer is because you get used to the water and the water becomes geshmak. He says that's the v'harev no Hashem Elokeinu as divrei sayrascha b'finu. When a person jumps into the Yam HaTalmud, so to speak, and he engrosses himself in the learning, so it's not going to be geshmak. You don't sit down to a Gemara and say, oh, this is beautiful, that's found in the Gemara. No, you break your teeth. Where does the comma go? Where's the question? Where's the answer? How does it answer the question? What does Rashi mean? What does Tais mean? It's not easy in the beginning. But if you're not a quitter and you keep trying, it'll become comfortable and it'll become geshmak. People will ask you, how's the sugya doing? Oh, it's geshmak. We had a good vart. We had a good kasha. To the point then that you become uncomfortable out of the pool and you become uncomfortable in the outside world because it's so geshmak to be in the Olam HaTorah. And we know Chazal compare Torah to water. Torah is compared to mayim, so maybe al derech remez, this is the way also, like a swimming pool water, that the Torah is compared to water, that you have to get used to it, but then it gives the greatest simcha. And I didn't see this part by Rav Schwab, but I added that it says in the Pasuk in Tehillim, Kuf Yotes, by the end of the kapitel, by the shin and sin, so it says, Sos anoichi al imrasecha. Rashi says that means that I am happy on the Imrei HaTorah, on the words of Torah, Kemoitze Shalal Rav, like somebody who finds spoils of a war, Shalal Rav. It doesn't say like you find a mitzvah on the street. Why Kemoitze Shalal Rav? According to Rav Schwab, it's beautiful, because Shalal is spoils that you find in a battle. A battle doesn't start off geshmak. A battle, there's a lot of loss of blood, and sometimes it's very hard, a battle. It starts off not so exciting, not so geshmak. But then at the end you win the battle and put your flag in the other country, and then you take the spoils of the battle. Then it's geshmak. But that's the simcha in Torah. After the milchamta shel Torah, after fighting, after toiling, the asik and the divrei Torah, then you have the sweetness of Torah. And it could be that's the oimek hadvarim, why the poskim say that these two brachas are really two stages of one bracha. Lasik b'divrei Torah comes first, and then with the vav achibur v'harevna, yes, and then make it sweet. Of course, we're asking Hashem to make it sweet for us. But you know how you get sweetness in Torah? Lasik b'divrei Torah. First, you have to work. You have to toil hard in the Torah. Then comes lasik b'divrei Torah. Then come after the lasik b'divrei Torah. Then, as a continuation of that, v'harevna, that Hashem makes the limud Torah sweet for us. So then we say that Hashem should make the Torah sweet, the words of Torah sweet, in our mouths, in the mouths of everyone. V'nia anachnu v'tzetzaenu. Now some say v'tzetzoi tzetzaenu. Nusach Sfard says that. The Mishnah Berurah already in Sivkatan Tes, over there in Siman Mem Zayin, brings that there are some that say v'tzetzaenu and v'tzetzoi tzetzaenu. So tzetzaenu means our children, tzetzoi tzetzaenu is our grandchildren. So why would we daven for our grandchildren? So that's based on the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Pei Hei Amid Aleph, that says that if there's a Talmud Chacham in the family for 3 generations, someone is a Talmud Chacham and his son and his grandson, Shuv Ein HaTorah Poisekes Mizaroi, then there's a segula that already for all generations is going to be B'nai Torah. So we daven daven for ourselves, for our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. So what would be the reason then for the people who don't say V'tzetzai Tzetzaenu to say just V'tzetzaenu? So the answer to that is, if you look in the Magen Avram and the Mishnah Berurah, they bring that the Targum in Eoiv, Parachaf Aleph Pasuk Ches, on the word V'tzetzaeim is Uvenei B'nei Hain. Tzetzaeim is incorrectly taiched as children. It doesn't mean your children. It means your offspring, your descendants. B'nei B'nei is also called Tzetzaeim. So when Nusach Ashkenaz says, V'niya anachnu v'tzetzaeinu, and our tzetzaim, it doesn't just mean our children, it means our children and grandchildren. Then they say, V'tzetzai, Amcha, Beis Yisrael, or the children and grandchildren of everyone in Klal Yisrael. But you don't have to speak out, V'tzetzai, Tzetzaenu, our offsprings, because that's still our tzetzaenu, that's our offspring. So that would be the difference here, the shinui, in whether you spell out V'tzetzai, Tzetzaenu, or you just include it in the simple nusach of V'tzetzaenu. But one thing's for sure, the Mishnah Berurah says in Simim Mem Zayin Sivkat on Yud that at this time, when a person says the word in the morning V'tzetzaenu, he should have in mind that not only he should have a sweetness in Torah, but his children should grow up to be B'nei Torah, whether a person has children yet or not. But this is a time where a person can daven for the future, that he should be Zaychet to children who are B'nei Torah and have Midos Taivois and their Tzadikim. The Mishnah Berurah goes on a whole arichos that when you say the words V'tzetzaenu, that's when you should, if you say Nusach Sfard, you have a little more time, you say V'tzetzai Tzetzaenu, you have a few more words, but if you daven Nusach Ashkenaz, it's all in the V'tzetzaenu, that you daven for your children, for all your offspring, that they should be Zoicha to be B'nei Torah. And we'll just end tonight with this next Nusach. We'll save the Loimdei Seirasachel Lishma and the rest of Bircas HaTorah for next time, but we say that all of us and our children, should be Kulanu Yoidei Shemecha. They should all be knowers of your name. So what does that mean? It's such a strange nusach. It's not a hard word. Yoidei Shemecha, knowers of your name. But you think about, what am I saying every morning? That we should all know Torah. We want to have Yediyas in Torah. What does it mean that we're asking that we should know Hashem's name? What is Hashem's name? And which name are we referring to? So there's two pshatim brought down in the Oitzer HaTfilah Siddur in the Pirish Eitz Yosef. The first pshat, he says, an interesting pshat, that it's not referring to Torah. What it means is when we say the names of Hashem, we mentioned this in the Shemona Esrei Shiurim, by Ata Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, the names of Hashem represent His midos, His anhagos, the way Hashem interacts with His bruim. There's a name of Rachamim, right? The name of Din, right? With Rachamim, it's the Midas HaChesed, or Midas HaRachamim is Hashem, and Elokim is Midas HaDin. So the different names represents the different hanhagos that Hashem has with Klal Yisrael. When it says in the beginning of Parshas Va'era that I appeared to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov bekel Shakoi, Ushmi Hashem lo noidati lahem. I did not become known to them with the name of Hashem. So that means getting known with the Shemos means understanding the ways of Hashem, the Hanhagos of Hashem. So the Eitz Yosef says when we say we should all be Yoidei Shemecha, it means through our Limud HaTorah we should be Yoidei Shemecha b'hasagas pu'uloisecha. By understanding your ways. We daven that every day we should understand the ways of Hashem, which are sometimes very hidden from us and a secret to us. We daven that we should understand the ways of Hashem. It's a little strange then, what is this doing in Bircas HaTorah? Stam, we want to understand the ways of Hashem, but what does it have to do with Limud HaTorah? So I think we could sushtel the Rashi in V'aschanon. Rashi in Parshas V'aschanon, Perek Vav, Pasuk Vav, says in by Kriyashma, V'hoyu hadvarim ha'ela, asher anoichi mitzavcha hayoim alav avecha. What are the dvarim ha'ela? It means the words of Torah, that these words of Torah should be on our heart. Rashi says, Shemitoich kach, because when someone learns Torah, ata makir b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, umedabek b'drachav. You get to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you can cling to His ways. And that's what it means. It means that through Limud HaTorah we understand the Darchei Hashem, we understand what Hashem likes and dislikes, we understand the ways of Hashem, and we can understand why certain things happen. We don't understand mamish till the end, exactly everything that Hashem does in His master plan. But with the Limud HaTorah, we become Yoidei Shemecha, we understand the Hanhagos, the Pu'ulos of Hashem. So that would be the pshat, according to this first pshat of the Eitz Yosef, that we're saying in Birchas HaTorah, through our Limud HaTorah, we should reach the level of Yoidei Shemecha, of knowing the Hanhagos and understanding the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the actions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to His bruim. The second pshat was a pshat that I thought always was more of a pasha pshat, and I found that the Vilna Gaon says this pshat as well. The Vilna Gaon in his Sefer Imrei Noyam, in Brachas Yud Aleph Amud Beis, says Yoidei Shemecha means Shekol HaTorah Shemoisav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the entire Torah is really the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you know the depths, the Ramazim, the Sisrei Torah, so the Torah represents the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, And when we say Yoidei Shemecha, that's another way of saying we should know Torah to its aimek, to its depths, to know the names of Hashem. The Ramban in his introduction to the Torah, if you look in the Ramban in Pirush HaTorah, he says, Yesh biyadenu Kabbalah shel emes. We have a Messiah of emes, meaning of what we call Kabbalah, that the Sisrei Torah. Ki chol HaTorah kula shemaisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The entire Torah, we don't know exactly how it's broken up and what this means, but the entire Torah is shemaisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an amazing thing. The Zohar says, I'm not so bakant in the Zohar, but most of the Zohars that I know are from the Nefesh HaChaim, that I did a few times. The Nefesh HaChaim in Perek Daled, Shar Daled, Perek Yud Tes, brings a Zohar HaKadosh in Parshas Mishpatim that says, Oiraisa Kula, the entire Torah, Shema de Kudsha Brichu, is the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Uman de Mishtadel Ba, Mishtadel is the Lashon of the Zohar for Isaac, someone who is Isaac in Torah, it's as if he's being Isaac in the Shem HaKadosh, in the Shem of Hashem. So this Zohar tells us clearly that when a person is being Isaac B'Torah, it's like being Isaac in the Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We make a bracha, lasik b'divrei Seira, and then with a vav hachibur, we're making the bracha that it should be sweet to us. So we ask Hashem, kulanu yoidei shemecha. We should all know the Torah, to the depth of the Torah. We should know the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that comes through the Torah, meaning we should have a profound understanding in our limud HaTorah. And even without the Torah's hanistar, without the Zohar HaKadosh, Lamaisa, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos in this week's parak, in Parak Gimel, Mishnah Vav, says that when a person learns Torah himself without any chavrusa, how do we know that the Shechina is there even though he's not learning with the chavrusa? So the Mishnah brings a pasuk at the end of Parshas Yisrael that says, "B'chol makom asher azkir es shemi, avoy eilecha uverachticha." Any place where there is a haskara of Shem Hashem, Hashem says, I will come and I will bless you. So we see that the Shechina comes. So what does that have to do with a person learning Torah himself? So you see from that Gemara, the Nefesh HaChaim over there explains that Limud HaTorah is Azgir Shemi, is mentioning Hashem's name, because the Limud HaTorah, the words of Torah is, even if your pasuk doesn't have the name of Hashem, the pasuk that you learned, or you're not learning psukim, you're learning other parts of Torah, but the Torah itself is considered Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore when we learn Torah, we are being Yoidei Shemecha. When we know Torah, we're knowing the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is hidden in the Torah. And one last makar is the Gemara in Bircas, Daf Chaf Aleph Amid Aleph, that says, how do you know B'chlal that you're supposed to make Bircas HaTorah? So it brings from the pasuk in Parshas Hazinu, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, Havu Goydel Elikeinu. When you say the Shem of Hashem, you should give greatness, Goydel, praise Hashem, and say the bracha. So the Maharsha says that what does it mean you should make a bracha, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra? That's talking about when a person learns Torah, because Kol HaTorah Kula is Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that's called Kishem Hashem Akra. So we're seeing from these various Makairos that reading the Torah, again, without venturing to explain what this means, I don't understand exactly how it is the Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the words of the Torah is Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If that's the case, that will be our second shot, the Vilna Gaon's shot, in Yoidei Shemecha. Kulanu Yoidei Shemecha either means we should all, through our Limud HaTorah, understand the ways of Hashem. It's the first shot of the Eitz Yosef, or says the Vilna Gaon in the second shot of the Eitz Yosef that Kulanu Yoidei Shemecha, we should all be Yoidem es HaTorah. We should know the Torah, but not just the superficial Torah. We should know all the hints, all the ramazim, all the Oimek HaTorah, even the Shmais of Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's hinted in the Torah. We should all be Yoidei Shemecha. And then the expression V'laim Deisarasachel Lishma and the rest of Bircas HaTorah, Mitzvah Hashem will say for the next year. Okay.